This is Guardian Radio, your station for up-to-the-minute news, intelligent, interactive, and engaging conversation. 96.9 FM. The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
You have to be strong in today's world. Strong. Keep your focus and what you believe in, how to achieve all your dreams. Hey. Keep moving forward. Never accept less than who you are. Live your best life. Hey. Be strong and free. It's the Hit Back with Nahaja Black. It's the Hit Back with Nahaja Black.
The Hit Back with Nahaja Black is sponsored by Atlantis Paradise Island, the Ministry of Health, Fidelity Bank Bahamas, Cable Bahamas, Rev Christmas, AML Foods Limited, SMG Caribbean, Nassau Tile, Baja Retreat and Spa, and the Cancer Treatment Centers of America.
Afternoon, Bahamas, and welcome to the Hit Back. I'm your host, Nahaja Black. It is a beautiful day here in the 242. I hope that you are doing well, taking care of yourself, and living your best life today. It is beautiful. I'm really enjoying these overcast skies, y'all. I really am. It is giving me good vibes. I feel like I could sing that song. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. Anybody else feeling it? Oh my God. I might even be moved to buy a tree. I might buy a tree. I might buy a real tree. Y'all know I have a fake tree. I feel like the fake tree is very economical. I think you shouldn't judge me. I put even pine tree scents on my fake tree, but it doesn't shed. You can't tell me fake trees weren't made by men who were ordained by God. Huh? Anyways, it's a beautiful Tuesday, Wednesday. I can't even keep up. I've got a very good show for you today. Very excited about my show today, y'all. I got some guests. Each one of my guests are somewhere not in the Bahamas. So today will be considered an international show, right? And both are very interesting in their own right. And the conversation, I think it kind of carries along with what I've been discussing this week when we were talking about, our international relationships and all of that stuff. I had the opportunity to be introduced to a Bahamian who of course, now I realize that there's a reason why I didn't know about this fellow is because he's living his best life in a whole other part of the world, on a different continent altogether, and speaking a totally different language. So there is a language barrier with him, and he is just doing a phenomenal job where he is really shining in his space. And it is important. And you remember, I don't know if you guys remember, pre-pandemic, and actually in the beginning of the pandemic, we used to do Bahamians Abroad. We used to do a segment called Bahamians Abroad. And when I was on Star 106, I would do the same segment, Bahamians Abroad. Well, after meeting or having a chance to chat with this wonderful gentleman, I thought there was no other reason. I had no other choice but to have him on the show. And when you hear his story and see his talent, you'll realize, and it's just one of those wonderful marvels to me, where it makes me so proud to be Bahamian. And it shows that how small we are as a country, it matters not the size of the country, because the people are larger than the location. We are a city, I believe, on top of the hill that can't be hid, that we have such capacity, such ability. And when given the opportunity, we are unleashed on the world, and the world then has to take notice. Even if they didn't know about our country before, when we enter into that space because of who we are. That's why I would tell you, we as a people, we have normalized our greatness because it seems average to us. If all of us are great orators, then you don't respect the statements. You don't respect the way it's delivered. So then maybe you need to leave the space. And then you begin to see how wonderful you are. Sometimes that's all you need to do, leave the space. And I'm not advocating that all Bahamians, just all the brilliant leave, because I know some of y'all get sensitive if everybody leave, then would you? I ain't there for that, I'm not there for that. You know what I'm there for? I want people to maximize their potential. And some folks have been called to lead, and then you will respect them on their return. Because y'all don't respect folk when they're trying to lead and maximize themselves in your space, because they're common. But when they leave and become great, you want to own them, right? Like, anyways, but we digress. That ain't even that show for today. I got a special guest I want to introduce you all to. This gentleman here, all the way from China. I have to figure out what part of China he's in. But a brilliant Bahamian young man, brother on TV. He's a superstar in China, y'all. No joke. I'm not making this up. This young Bahamian man is a superstar in China. He has over 2 million TikTok followers. He's won China's Got Talent. I think it was something like that. He's and he'll tell me, he'll give me the whole 411. He's a singer. He's an actor. He's a philanthropist. He's a teacher. He's doing all of these things. And the brother ain't even close to 40. This is powerful. I think he's like might be late 20s, early 30s. My numbers could be off. So we'll just go with late 20s. Give the man some room to breathe. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome to the show with me today, none other, all the way from China. I think it's somewhere early in the morning. He'll give us the time. Mr. Keeson Tinka. Keeson, how are you?
Good afternoon, Nahaja. It is so great to finally be here. It is an absolute honor to have this opportunity. You have no idea. And just listening to your introduction backstage, I was like, I wonder if this is me coming up next. So she's actually talking about the superstar and all of the accolades that you preceded me with.
Yes.
I have a lot to live up to.
well, and it's real, right? I'm not doing this just for fun because Keeson, you have been, well, first of all, you tell me, because how long have you been in China? Because I pull up your name and you're everywhere. It feels
Am
like,
I really?
Yes, you're everywhere.
Oh, goodness.
In China. You are
happen?
known. Yeah. So tell us, give us your story, Keeson. When did you move to China and how long have you been there?
Well, this story started about 17 years ago. I came here when I was 20 years old. At the time, I'll just give you a bit of a background so you'll have a bit of a context in how I actually got here. I was employed at the Royal Bank of Canada for about 2 years after I did a bit of studying in Jamaica. And I decided that, as you said in your introduction, I think that you really hit the nail on the head. You were completely right. Some people are just destined to leave. And I always felt that there was an urgency for me to get out of that space, as you would call it, and figure out what my potential actually was, figure out what my calling was. And I realized that probably wasn't going to happen where I was. And I just decided one day that I want to go somewhere far. I want to go somewhere incredibly far, to a country where I have never been, be able to speak a language that I've never spoken, and where I don't have the luxury of being around Bahamians or anything that I'm familiar with.
Yes.
24/7.
Yes.
China hit me out of nowhere. As you might have imagined, like 17 years ago, but we have a lot of Chinese, well, not a lot, but we have quite a bit of Chinese that reside, have businesses, and are thriving in the Bahamas. Unfortunately, we don't get an opportunity to know what their stories are. How did they end up in our space? How did they end up in our lovely Bahamas? And I just figured that it was time. I just thought that it was time. And then, when I graduated from high school, I graduated with a lot of scholarships, but all of them were to universities in Canada or the United States.
Yeah.
And I got a full scholarship to even the College of the Bahamas. But I just had this gut feeling that was just not where I was supposed to be. And it wasn't far enough. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It just wasn't far enough.
Yeah.
China popped up on my radar. And at the time, there were, to my knowledge, 2 Bahamians that were here, namely Julian Francis and Denise Francis, mother and son. They were the first Bahamians that actually came here on the Bahamas, the Chinese government scholarship. I reached out to the son, Julian Francis, and he told me where he was. He was at that time studying in Shanghai. And I applied to 2 universities in Beijing, as a matter of fact. I was only supposed to have been in Shanghai transiting to Beijing. So the transit I extended. I wanted to see what Shanghai was all about. And he took me to his university. And the following day, he said that he was going to register. The semester was about to start and he was going to register. And then he said, would you like to come along? I said, absolutely. I would love to see what a Chinese university would be like. When I walked onto that campus, I was like, this is definitely for me. I don't want to go anywhere. I want to stay right here. I walked into the admissions office and I'm like, how do I get into this program? They're like, what are you planning on studying? I was like, I want to study Chinese, but I want to study it here. They're like, when are you accepted?
Yeah.
They're like, when are you accepted though? Have you applied? I was like, no, I haven't applied. I want to apply now. They're like, well, were you accepted from another university? I was like, yeah, Tsinghua University and Peking University, which I later found out were the top 2 universities in China. And they only accept a certain applicant with a certain criteria in order to get in. I didn't know. I just submitted my documents and they were like, okay, yeah, you're what we're looking for. And I ended up in Shanghai. It has been the most thrilling roller coaster of experiences that I have ever experienced in my life. Living in China has honestly forced me to realize some potential that I have that I never knew even existed. Before coming to China, I did sing. I didn't sing as much as I sing now, but I have made a few appearances on some shows back home, like Bahamas at Sunrise, and then there were some other shows on Sunday afternoons. I don't really remember their names, but it wasn't a big thing for me. It was just something that I did because I enjoyed it. I never for 1 second thought that it would have actually turned into this part of my skill set or a part of my career set.
Yeah.
And I use the word set because I do a lot of different things, as you mentioned in your introduction. And in an hour, I'll actually be teaching a class. I teach special needs children. I teach English to special needs children. That's something that I just started 2 years ago. I love it. I absolutely love it. I'll tell you a bit more about that in a couple of minutes. But Shanghai was my first stop here in China.
Let me ask you something. Keeson Tinker joining us. And you're in Shanghai now?
I am actually in Xi'an, home of the Terracotta Warriors. I'm based in Beijing, but I'm currently on a business trip in Xi'an.
Okay. So then, first of all, when you went over to China, when you went over to Shanghai, were you speaking Mandarin? Were you fluent?
When I came to China, the only thing I knew how to say was hello, which was in my native language. I knew no Mandarin whatsoever. So when I landed, the thing is, when I told my parents, my family, and persons around me that I was going to China, the first reaction that I got from about everyone was, China? You going all the way over there? And I'm like, yeah, I'm doing it. And, a lot of the Bahamians that come over here, whether it's on scholarship or if they're self-paid, they usually come with a parent or a guardian or some sort of family member. I traveled first time internationally by myself from Nassau, transited through Chicago, once again in Tokyo, and then I landed in Shanghai. First time, 20 years old, basically fresh off the boat. I had no idea what the language, the culture, the experience would have been like. Landed completely lost, but so full of confidence. You know how Bahamians are.
Yeah, and we're young too, right? Yes. Huh? Young and confident and, fearless.
I love that word. I was completely fearless when I came to China, and it frightened a lot of people. They're like, how are you going to survive over there? You don't know the language. You don't know anything about the history, the culture. I was like, well, that's why I want to go.
Yes.
How many Bahamians can actually say that they know the language, that they speak it fluently to a point where they can actually translate or they can write books or do a thesis? How many of them can actually conduct tours or, that sort of, I'm like, I have to do this. I'm not doing this for anyone else. I'm doing this for me. I want to explore my options. I want to reach my full potential. And I came here and I did that.
Oh man, you're doing it. You're doing it.
And I'm doing that, and before we even move any further, I just want to say a special thank you to you, Nahaja, for highlighting my personal experience here in China, because I think that a lot of people have so many misconceptions about what China is, where it is, how things are, and the way that Bahamians actually live on a day-to-day basis in a country so far away. There's so many misconceptions, and I am so happy that I have the opportunity to demystify a lot of those, whether they be stereotypes or misconceptions. I'm just happy to be here today. Thank you so much for having me.
No, it's an honor. It's an honor for you saying yes, right? Because I said, this is a superstar, man. Superstars don't talk to little people. Right?
Still trying to figure out where this superstar is.
Listen, and what is so powerful about it, if you're just tuning in, Keeson Tinker joining us. And Keeson, where are you again? Say that name again.
I'm in Xi'an. Xi'an is in northwest China, central northwest China, and about an hour and a half flight away from Beijing, 2 hours away from Shanghai. And I'm based in Beijing. That's where our embassy is. I've worked with the embassy closely over the years since we actually set up office way back in, when was it, the end of 2005, 2006. 4 years ago was actually our 20th anniversary of diplomatic relations between the People's Republic of China and the Bahamas. A celebration at which I performed the Bahamian National Anthem. I love performing the Bahamian National Anthem. You have no idea. It just brings this, and especially here in China, I've sung the Bahamian National Anthem in Canada. I've sung it in the UK. I've done it here. But I think it just feels different here because every time I bring up the name Bahamas, because the translation is so close to Panama, and I'll tell you, you can decide for yourself. In Chinese, the word Bahamas is Bahama. And for Panama, it's Panama. It sounds very similar to the Chinese ear, and most of them have not heard of the Bahamas. So every time I have an opportunity to do any type of show, it's always a cultural expression for me. I want to make sure that people know I want to make sure that they know that there is a Bahamas, first of all. I want them to know that, no, we're not in Africa, not because it's a stereotype that exists, and it's because of lack of information and lack of exposure. Not all, some. But whenever I have the opportunity, I want to make sure that people know where we are, what we're about, what we have to offer especially. So every performance that I do, they always give at least 5 to 10 minutes for me to share what the Bahamas is. And I would grab videos from YouTube. There's videos from like the Ministry of Tourism that they use, and we just play that, and it's in the background, like what you were actually doing right now with my promo video. And people are like, wow, the water is so clear. Like, we had absolutely no idea that a place like this actually existed. We've never seen water so clear and sky so blue. I was like, yeah, that's where I was born, that's the country that born and raised me, and it's just a pleasure to be able to share the Bahamas here with so many of our Chinese friends. It is absolutely fantastic.
We'll take a break. When we come back, let's dive a bit deeper into your experience. Also, folks, I need for Keeson, you have to say whatever you need to say in Mandarin, because your dialect is better than I had the wonderful opportunity to interview the Chinese ambassador. And I think you might be beating her in your Chinese.
She and I had a great conversation the other day. I will tell you about that when you come back from the break. She's such an amazing woman.
Yeah, I think she's a cool cat for sure. All right, we'll take a quick break. Keeson Tinker joining us. You're listening to the Hit Back with Nahaja Black, Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Bahamian Abroad joining us live there from China. Xi'an, I think. Maybe I was close. I was terrible. I can barely speak English. We'll be back right after this.
Rejuvenate, refresh, treat yourself. Immerse yourself in total comfort. Pamper yourself. After all, you're worth it. Relax. Rid yourself of all life stresses. At Baja Retreat Anti-Aging Spa, you will find everything you need to enhance your body and spirit. Call today at 323-6711 and begin your journey to serenity at Baja Retreat Anti-Aging Spa.
We are working to protect our country, our people, and our livelihoods so that we can move forward. The vaccine is safe. The vaccine is easy. The vaccine is essential for our recovery. If we want to rebuild our economy, if we want to get back to our jobs, if we want to get back to our lives, our families, we must do this together.
Food security is a challenge for many. Now in a pandemic, many more are unsure of their next meal. Through their Feed 5,000 program and a $20,000 donation, AML is working to ensure that everyone has a meal for the holidays, and they're inviting you to help. Now until December 17th, visit any Solomon's, Costrite, Fresh Market, or Domino's in Nassau or Freeport, and Exuma Markets in Georgetown to donate and help feed a family in need this Christmas. No amount is too small. Remember, we're all in this together.
When I had got prostate cancer, my family didn't know if I was going to live. At Cancer Treatment Centers of America, within days, I got an appointment. They presented me with treatment options, and we set up a robotic prostatectomy. When my scans came back, there are no signs of cancer. They don't see you as a number, they see you as a part of the family. I'm going on with my life. That's a real gift.
Call us at Cancer Treatment Centers of America.
This is Guardian Radio, 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
It's the Hit Back with Nahaja Black. It's the Hit Back with Nahaja Black. It's the Hit Back with Nahaja Black. It's the Hit Back with Nahaja Black.
We're back. Someone said, Nahaja, sound like you're ready to go to China too. Listen, man, I would love to visit. I don't know. I need to go far now. I've always wanted to go far. Keiston's story of wanting to go far, but I only went as far as Canada. And I sure left without anybody coming out. I was like, Mommy, Daddy, I gotta go. I don't know what to tell you. I'm out here. Deuces. So I totally get it. Keiston, when you gotta go. And
you gotta go.
You gotta go. You're like, I love y'all. I remember my mom said to me, Keiston, said, it's so far. I'm like, it's not that far. Not far enough. I'm gonna run into some Bahamians. But thank God for those 10 Bahamians. They helped me out. Keiston Tinker joining me all the way from China right now. It's a pleasure having you on. Someone says, I need to buy a real tree, Keiston. They don't like my fake tree, by the way.
No, come on. Fake trees are awesome. Low maintenance, zero maintenance, I might add.
Listen, I have a fake tree, but the lights are on it. You just pull it out of the box, plug it in. Isn't that powerful?
Hey, I don't see a problem with that. I think that's awesome.
I think so.
Isn't that cool?
I think it's like 21st century. I think I'm actually 22nd century.
Wait, hold on. You have a tree already? Thanksgiving. Oh, by the way, I need to wish you guys happy Thanksgiving. I just realized that it's Thursday, November 25th here in China.
Oh, right, because I was about to say, Keiston, you need to keep
We're already in Thanksgiving. Isn't that cool? Well, you'll be celebrating another, you got a while.
Yeah, a while. Let's go with that with the hours, almost about 6 hours. Man, it's such a pleasure, though. Happy Thanksgiving to you, too.
Thank you.
Where you are. And thank you for I know that it is early. You're 13 hours ahead. So thank you so much for doing this.
Pleasure is all mine.
Let's talk. If you're just tuning in, Keiston Tinker joining us all the way from China right now. And we're talking about his experience abroad, how he has successfully made this transition and created an entire life. And you said you were there from when you were 20. And how many years have you been there now? Now we're going to add 8 years and do math. But how many years have you been there now, Keiston?
17. This year makes the 17th year.
And this is home for you. This is home. You are now a fully bona fide, I love this place home. And I come and visit my family when I visit my family. I feel like that's what we're hearing here now. Is that safe to say?
Well, if my parents, my family are tuning in, That's not safe to say. Not at all. Not at all. I honestly love living here in China. To be completely honest, when my family came here, they had the time of their lives. And I think it was because of the experiences that they had with the people that are here, They understand why I love it. They came for my graduation, when I graduated with my bachelor's degree in Mandarin and Chinese language with a minor in Japanese. And then they came again for my master's degree thesis. And then I think my brother came in 2007. And they've been here quite a bit. They love it. Even my grandmother, who is 90 years old this year, she even made the trip. And when she came, she was the only one that made it to the top of the Great Wall. We were completely exhausted. We were like, Mom, you know what? You could go. We can watch you from right here. But yeah, you go. We can be here, all right? So when you come down, just look for the red shirt, eh? We can be right here. But listen, and she went and she didn't stop. Fearless. She loved it so much. It just has a way of growing on you. It's either for you or it's not for you. But it's definitely for me. And I've traveled to quite a few countries, and honestly, this does feel like home. It does feel like home because I've assimilated into the culture so deeply. And so there's a bond that I have. It is not even just on the surface, it's a mental, emotional bond that I have with the culture and the language. I love learning languages. That's why I did a minor in Japanese, and I studied German at the College of the Bahamas for 2 years. And then here I also did a spot of Korean, Spanish, we do Spanish in school. Yeah. So languages are all in my head, and I sing in about 6 or 7 languages anyway.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I forgot to tell you that. Yeah.
You sing in 6 or 7 different languages.
Yeah. I sing, English, of course. And I don't get to sing in English that much at all here in China, except if it's for an embassy event per se, or an event hosted by a foreign company. But it's usually Mandarin or one of the dialects in Mandarin. I've sung in 5 dialects. I've sung Peking opera, which is one of the most difficult musical genres that probably exist. It's not in the promo video, but and I'm sorry that I can't share it. But it's for those tuning in that actually know what it is. It's super hard. It really is hard. It took me almost half a year to learn just one song in Peking opera, but it was a great experience. I also sing in Italian. It's been so much fun. I love it.
Let me ask you this. One of the songs that is the most highly requested is I Love China that you sing.
Yeah, I Love You, China.
How did that happen? How was that song? And because I think that is the most interesting thing, right? That I Love China, sung by a Bahamian black boy, and the Chinese love it. Explain how that happened.
They absolutely do love it, Nahaja. It started back in Shanghai. What happened was, in our language classes, our teachers would keep an eye out for students that have an aptitude toward the language, a love of the culture, that have special talents. They discovered that I remember what it was. I usually stayed behind to help clean because the cleaning lady, she actually had an injury in her leg. And I stayed behind after my language classes to help her clean. And in helping her clean, to sweeping and mopping and whatnot, I would hum. And I love to hum when I clean. I'm not sure. I never cleaned when I was home. I just really hope my mom isn't listening to this.
Oh, she's listening. I know she is.
I'm pretty sure she is. But yeah, she was. Yeah, so I sing when I clean, or I hum when I clean. And the cleaning lady was like, "You have a really beautiful voice." Of course, all of this was in Mandarin. And I was like, "Oh, that's so sweet of you to say. I love singing, as a matter of fact." So like, have you ever thought about entering into the school's top 10 singers competition? I was like, I haven't even heard of it. Like, do you want to sign up? I was like, I'm pretty sure that, and sing in what? In Mandarin? Like, seriously? And she's like, yeah, I think you would do really, really well. I was like, if you think so, I'm pretty sure that I'm probably not even going to make the top 9 out of 10. And they were like, well, there are layers to the competition. You have to choose a Chinese song. That's a prerequisite. You can't get out of that. You'll have to train a bit. You choose a song, and I'll let our dean know, because you'll be representing the international students. So it started out with a competition preliminaries in our class among other foreign students. I won that. And then all of the classes, the winner from each class had a competition. Then I won that. And then I moved on to the finals, which were where I represented the College of International Studies, and I competed with all of the other college winners at the grand finale, and I won that.
Oh, wow.
And then I represented my university in Shanghai, competing against other Chinese singing in Mandarin, and I came first in Shanghai.
Wow.
And then I represented Shanghai. I represented Shanghai in China. There was a competition in Beijing, the only foreigner to ever make it into the national finals.
Wow.
And I placed third.
No,
But
that's great.
to make it into the top, to be there, I mean, you have absolutely no idea.
And in
that
Mandarin,
felt.
you're
And in
singing
Mandarin.
in Mandarin. It was that
In
fluent
Mandarin.
that you were able to represent. You're competing in all of China against all of China, and you get third.
With Chinese people, and I actually placed third in the entire country.
That's crazy.
That was
That's
a
crazy.
historical. That was an eye-opening moment for me. I was like, what else is out there? You know, possibilities are endless. Once you decide to come out of that box that for so many years we've, unfortunately, some of us have been trained to just stick into, you know?
Yeah.
When you move out of that space and you expand your territory, it's amazing what can actually happen. And I have to thank so many people for ensuring that this journey was such a successful one. Have to thank my parents. God has been, and I love the fact that I actually grew up in the church. It kept me singing. And music has honestly been with me my entire life. I grew up in a Seventh-day Adventist church, Centerville Seventh-day Adventist Church on Fifth Terrace. And my grandmother sings. My grandmother on both sides sing. My mother is a soprano. My dad is a tenor. My grandfather on my mother's side actually played 13 instruments, self-taught. So music is in my blood. It's what really drives me. And I've heard that people that actually sing have this aptitude to learning languages. I didn't think it was true until I actually got here and started learning one of the most difficult languages in the world. And believe me when I say that it is incredibly difficult to learn Mandarin. It was hard for me when I first started. I will not, I won't downgrade that. I won't downplay that. It is super hard to learn. And then there are degrees that, there are tests that you can take to basically to let you know what your ability actually is. It's something like the TOEFL. They have something similar for foreigners studying Chinese. It's called the HSK. And so when I took the test, the highest level was an 11 on a scale of 1 to 11. And in my university, I was actually in there 54 years in operation as a university. I scored the highest in the university's history. I actually got a 98%, scoring an 11 overall on my language proficiency test. My weakest point, and I'm not even ashamed to say so because it's so difficult, is writing. I don't even like writing in English. So, I don't even think it's about the language. I just don't like to write. Let me talk. Just let me talk. I could talk all day, but if you give me a piece of paper and a pen and ask me to write in English or in Mandarin or in any other language, we're gonna have a problem. Some sort of issue. Either I'm gonna bring up an issue, or we're gonna have an issue. We gotta have an issue. But it was
Keith and Tinker.
It was fun. It was fun. Learning the language.
Let me ask you this. For those, just so folks can get a sense of your fluency in this, Keeson. And when people say like you're putting, like you're some sort of puppet, say something. But perhaps, our national motto or a pledge, something that we would know in English that you could say in Mandarin that would give us folks an idea of the fluency of the language for you, just so they understand how immersed you are in this thing. It's crazy.
Let me think. Is there a poem that I know?
Or maybe a Bahamian song. What about Going Down Burma Road? Or Who Put the Pep in the Vat?
I've actually thought about translating some Bahamian songs. I think that we have a story to tell through our music. I haven't done that yet. Lyrical, is that what you call it? Lyrical writing or writing lyrics is sort of different than like direct translation. But I will introduce myself just really quickly in Mandarin.
Okay.
Just so you can hear the tones. 亲爱的观众朋友们，大家上午好。我的中文名字叫科森，我来自北美洲巴哈马群岛。今天非常高兴能够收到我们的这边的邀请，来参加今天的节目。也希望我们国家在日后呢能越来越繁荣昌盛。也希望我们美丽的主持人能早日找到他的圣诞树，希望是真的。感谢大家。
Well,
all
okay.
right.
All right. Okay. All I got was that last part when you did the bow.
Bowed, right?
That's all I got.
So,
wow.
In Mandarin, I wished, just for the benefit of our listeners, I wished you a successful show. I said that our beautiful host, I hope that she has a successful show. I said my name is Keeson Tinker from Nassau, Bahamas, hailing from China, and I wish that you have a successful show and that you find your Christmas tree, whether it's real or fake. I gotta plug in the Christmas tree.
You slipped that right in there.
Yeah, I gotta plug it. I gotta give the tree some recognition.
Love the tree. You have to show some love for the tree. I'm totally there with you. But the dialect, Keeson Tinker joining us from Xi'an, China, with us on the show here today. Very excited and proud of you. A lot of folks, again, one of the reasons why I wanted to do this, and I love to spotlight our Bahamians abroad, is that it is an eye-opener for many. And I want folks to realize that the feeling or that those constraints that we tend to feel, the limiting systems that tell us, okay, well, this is as far as you can go.
Yes.
We kind of have fear of when we go abroad, why we don't leave or why we don't move. And I'm not, again, advocating that all Bahamians mass out, right? No. But there are some where you might find the need to spread your wings and that we do excel abroad. There are stories of folks not excelling, but there are quite a few great stories of people excelling. And one of the themes, and many of the themes, is the fearlessness, the itch, the need for more and greater. Something that I want to ask you, though, because many will be asking the question of, the cultural difference, right? You're a raisin in the sun, we stand out, right? At home, we are the majority. You went somewhere where you are in the minority. And I was watching something the other day about, African Americans in Japan. And there was a series about African Americans making that transition and moving to Japan and totally loving the culture and not feeling their race other than the curiosity of where you're from and some stereotypes of location, et cetera. But how have you transitioned and what were some of the misconceptions that you had that were dispelled or new things that you've learned that you didn't know before?
Well, I think the transition for me was, and this is speaking from personal experience, the transition for me was not as difficult as I thought it would have been. The reason for that is I travel a lot, especially in the States and Canada, before I actually went to China. And I somehow always found a way to go to the Chinatowns in all of the major cities that I traveled to, whether it was New York, Toronto, Ottawa, LA, San Francisco. So I interacted with a lot of Chinese people even before the thought of going to China ever entered my mind. And even in traveling with my mom to places like South Florida, Miami in particular, where she would go to get stock for her store. She's an interior designer, and that's something that I do as well. I'm actually a floral and interior designer. We'll talk about that soon because I've actually done some work here with that as well. But anyway, I had the opportunity of interacting with them on a very personal level when China was not even in my mind. So I was used to being around that culture, the tea, the bowing. So there were parts of the culture that I knew. There was so much that I was interested in, but because of the language barrier, if you've interacted with some at the markets in places like San Francisco, LA, New York, places like that, in Chinatown, you know that there is a language barrier, and they tend to shy. They're very shy, very introverted. Most of them, yeah, and that's a part of the culture that is actually rubbed off, for lack of a better phrase. It's rubbed off on me a lot. Coming here, I was full of confidence. That confidence has been groomed into a modest approach to life, a different approach to family. I noticed that Chinese have a completely different view on a lot of issues that are very, very pressing. Family, for instance. The families here are so close-knit. And it's, for example, if there are two kids, one of them is excelling in his studies or her studies, the entire family would pool together. I'm talking about the aunties, the uncles, the grandmothers, the grandfathers. They would pool all of their resources together just to make sure that this one kid is able to go through school. That is something that I haven't seen as a norm in a lot of Western countries, and at home in particular. If you can't afford to do it, you'll probably end up just doing something else, getting a job, or just not being able to reach your full potential. But I've noticed that families here are so close-knit. And I've heard that term, so many times, that blood is thicker than water, but here it's on a completely different level. When you are accepted into a Chinese family, you're honestly one of them. They treat you, and this is from my personal experience, I've been treated with such a high level of hospitality that sometimes I even forget where I am. I mean, I feel like I'm in my own house. Sometimes they just make you feel so welcome, and they offer everything that they have just to make sure that you're comfortable and that you're taken care of and that you're happy in their space.
Yeah.
I love that.
Let me ask you this. Because we're running out of time. Yeah. I want to ask you this. One of the, and very frankly, there are some concerns that I think many have, even though we have a lot of commerce. But, we have Bahamians who travel into China and do business into China, visit the Canton showcase. Quite a bit. One of those things which I wish to do too. My good friend Lester Cox used to travel there all the time. Anyways, there's that concern though, where folks say, well, is it not a communist nation? Are there not restraints on you and your freedom of speech? Have you ever felt restricted in the country, to be yourself? What would you say to Bahamians who are listening in?
Well, first of all, that's a huge myth. In any country that you go to, there are policies, there are regulations, there is culture. There is a sense of governance. It's loose in some countries and it's tighter in some countries. Here, I think that the rules and regulations being enforced help to create that sense of freedom that we're enjoying today. I feel completely free. Personally speaking, I feel completely free living in China. And I've never, ever felt that I was being repressed or my speech was being restricted or anything like that. It's an open stage for me. And China has always welcomed me with open arms. I've never felt that way. And for persons coming here to do business and whatnot, I think the key is ensuring that you have a plan. A lot of Bahamians come here with money in their pockets with no plan. They want to go to a show, they want to go to the markets, they have no translator, or they just sort of wing it. If you're not Nahaja on the hit back, you can't wing it. Come with a plan, or reach out to someone like me who has actually started an international trading company that has taken multiple businesses from Europe, America, Canada, into different factories and whatnot. That's what I do. That's another part of what I do. Make sure that you have a plan. You can't come here expecting miracles to happen. You have to plan. And in that way, you can avoid a lot of unfortunate happenings. But in terms of restrictions, there are laws. You abide by the laws and you're free. And that's how I see it.
One more question, a Bahamian question for you, Keeson, before I let you go. A texter asked, said, listen, can you tell us, do they have, let me make sure I get this, are the Chinese women as bigoty as the Bahamian women? That's not a nice question, but it's a Bahamian question. You can tell that my texters need to get saved. What is that? And they put a height, 5'2".
I love it.
What is that?
I love it. Biggity. Is that the word they use? Biggity?
Biggity. They use biggity. And I didn't even know we could spell that. I didn't know you could spell biggity.
Is that even a word? Like a dictionary
that's our
word?
But now I know we can spell it.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, like I said earlier, my first stop was Shanghai. The women in Shanghai tend to be a bit more introverted. They are more on the fashionista side. They tend to want to enjoy more of the finer things in life. They're more elegant.
So I need to tell my texter, don't be broke. That's the first thing.
If you're going to Shanghai, no, because the cost of living there is rather high, and in Beijing, places like that.
All right.
But the further north you go, you will begin to realize that there are differences in the personalities of the women. The furthest north I've ever been was Inner Mongolia. And the women there basically run the show. The men there have very little place in a lot of situations. You know, the biggity, listen, biggity.
That's like, those are our cousins. Those are our cousins. Okay.
But in a good way, you know, they take control. They take control because the women are more trusted in those regions to take control. They run the house. They run businesses because they're capable of doing it. And I love to see women in action like that. Why, men don't have to run everything. You know what Beyonce said? Who run the world? Girls.
Once the texter knows.
It's true. It's true.
And, I want you to, and I wish we had more time, but Keeson, of course, folks will be able to hear more from you. I got one more text. I want to make sure.
Sure.
Okay, well, this one, I'll leave that question for my other guest who's coming up. But I want to, I wish we had where you sang and, someone says, please ask your guest to give his contacts. Is there a way folks can reach you if they do want to travel to China and want you to be their tour guide or assist? How do folks reach you?
Yeah, well, I'm on Facebook. Mm-hmm. I'm on Facebook. The name is Bernard Tinker. Bernard as in Saint Bernard, the big dog, and Tinker as in Tinkerbell. So yeah, DM me there, and it will be a pleasure. Make sure that you're. Oh yeah, I see the messages coming through. Oh, this is so cool! I love your setup, by the way, Nahaja.
Come on,
I've never done this. By the way, this is my first time doing an interview in English.
Oh, that's right. You said that.
I'm giving my first to you. I'm like a virgin with this.
Thank you, buddy. If I have to be the one to do it, then you're in good hands.
I'm happy that you were the one to take it. This is it feels right. You're amazing, honestly. And I'll also put in another plug. This is the first time that I'm tuning into a Bahamian radio station.
Wow.
I was never a radio person.
Yeah.
I sort of, just by slip and fall, I would listen to one before coming to China. That was like a really long time ago. And that time, I think we only had like Daryl Miller. I don't remember the name of the show.
Yeah. Daryl Miller Live. That's all we need to know.
Long time. Daryl Miller Live, right. That was the name of the show. That was the only show that I sort of listened to in passing. It wasn't like of sitting down listening to it. But before coming on to the show today, I actually watched a few snippets of your other shows with some other guests. You are phenomenal. Come to China. It will be an honor to take you around and to show you and let you experience some of the things that I've come to love being here in this country. You will love it.
You know what? When you say it like that, I think we're going to have to get it done. Yeah. Especially if I'm rolling with a celebrity singer, right? That means that everything is comp. I'll travel with you, my friend. It's a pleasure.
Let's do it.
Keeson Tinker, thank you so much. I appreciate you, my friend. Thank you so much for the time. I know the time constraints.
You're welcome.
And difference there. So go and get a nap. You look good for a man who hasn't slept. So thank you so much.
I really haven't. But,
thank you, buddy.
For the show, it was worth it. Thank you so much for having me. And in the future, if we ever have an opportunity, you never know. I'm a host here as well. So maybe when you come here, I'll host you. Oh. And I'll put you in this. I'm in the seat.
I love it. Thank you. Keeson Tinker, thank you so much. It's a pleasure again.
Thank you.
All right. You're listening to The Hit Back with Nahaja Black, Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Keeson Tinker, all the way there from CN China, joining us, a Bahamian abroad. And I think that that's good. I love those stories, y'all. I love those stories. And I'm going to start showcasing even more of our Bahamians abroad as we continue to see them enlarging their territory. When we come back, joining us, though, we switch gears just a bit to continue on the conversation that we've been having with regard to foreign policy and our relationship. This same story, the Bahamas' relationship with China and the U.S. And one of the authors from a fantastic article, Dr. Patrick Griffin, he co-authored an article called A Strategic Challenge for the U.S., China, and the Bahamas. And I'm looking forward to us having that discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to The Hit Back with Nahaja Black, Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. We will be back right after.
J.S. Johnson Insurance Agents are the best. Reliable service, we've been on the scene, protecting since 1919. J.S. Johnson Insurance has the test. You're always covered me. J.S. Johnson Insurance, peace of mind.
At Fidelity, the holidays are all about family, spending time with loved ones, and being thankful for the little things in life. Worrying about bills should be the last thing on your mind, especially during the holidays. Let Fidelity help you get your bills under control. Fidelity can also get you started with a real savings plan that actually pays you interest. The only thing you need to think about is what you will do with the savings in your pocket this Christmas. Now that's what I'm talking about. Fidelity Bank is here for you this holiday season because you are family, and family is important to us.
Your child needs nutrients every day, and Enfagrow has DHA and iron, which supports your child's mental development. Enfagrow has components which cow's milk does not contain. Support your toddler's growth and complement their diet with Enfagrow. Let's fuel the wonder. This product is not intended to be a substitute for breast milk. Milk does not contain DHA, but contains calcium and other nutrients.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, Nassau, Bahamas.
With Nahaja Black, it's the Hit Back. With Nahaja Black, it's the Hit Back. With Nahaja Black, it's the Hit Back. With Nahaja Black.
Back, you're listening to The Hit Back with Nahaja Black, Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Really excited about my next guest. He and I have not formally met before, so this is the first time he and I will be meeting, and you will be watching that introduction on air. Hopefully, it's as seamless as I think he laughed at the joke of biggity Bahamian women. I like him. I do. I want to welcome everyone, and I want to introduce you to this gentleman because he wrote an article, and this was the same article that I brought to the attention of the Minister of Foreign Affairs yesterday, Minister Fred Mitchell. It was the article when I saw it, when I read it, had led to a series of conversations, and that sparked the interview with Minister Mitchell yesterday. After watching and after having the ambassador of China, Ambassador Dai, on the show, but previous to that, watching the machinations of what seemed to be a lot of jockeying, really, within the international community, within country. So now the jockeying, I think we can say, with the new government afoot, where we would see more gestures from many countries now, even Canada itself, making statements along the way. So this is a very interesting time, and one where I think that we all should be mindful, very alert, but that the relationships between China and the Bahamas is not a new one. In recent years, it has just continued to find its way evolving. new businesses happening, relationships, investments. One of the first statements, which was a major statement for many that were concerned, was the Minister of Investments, the Deputy Prime Minister Chester Cooper, saying that we welcome and we are looking forward to Chinese investors across all spheres into the country. And that was met with some pushback locally. And of course, the Chinese Ambassador Dai, stating that there's nothing nefarious. We've been doing business. If the United States had asked to say that they were going to do more investments, we would have no problem with it. But when it's China, there is a challenge. Then we see this article, an article that was done by The Hill, on thehill.com. It's called A Strategic Challenge for the U.S., China, and the Bahamas. It was co-authored by Dr. Patrick J. Griffin and Mr. William Danvers. And I wanted to have join me on this show to talk about his thoughts and what he shared. This professor, Dr. Griffin, he teaches at American University in Washington, D.C. He's also worked as an assistant to President Clinton and was secretary of, and I make sure I have this, of the Democratic Party or Democratic Senate. And he's going to make sure I get that right there when I get him on board. Without further ado, I would like to welcome our special guest, Dr. Patrick Griffin. Dr. Griffin, welcome to the Hit Back. Oh, wait, I can't hear you. Oh, no. Oh, wait. Make sure your mic is unmuted and we can get you on. Oh, wait, and let's try it again. No, can't hear you. Okay, see what we can do here. If we can log out and log back in and see if we can get some of these technical issues there. Somehow I think your microphone might be off, but not through the app here. So let's see if we can get it resolved. But we will, so just log out of it and double check if you can get an aide to check, probably assist to see if your laptop's microphone might be muted. And so let's double check on that, okay? We're gonna get it resolved. We're gonna get that resolved. Dr. Patrick Griffin joining us from American University. So we'll hopefully we'll get that resolved. But I'm telling you, it was very interesting. And I'm going to read this, some parts of the article for you to tell you why it was so important that we have Dr. Griffin on the show with us to talk about some of these things. Okay, so this is what was said. A strategic challenge for the U.S., China, and the Bahamas. And y'all know, for me, I like this sort of stuff. So you kind of go into school with me on this one because I think these are interesting. And even with the minister being on yesterday, the position is, look, we are, we lean more heavily to the United States, that the United States is our ally, number one ally, closest to us, but there are ways you can leverage. Now, what we didn't necessarily hear was the leveraging steps. What would be the leveraging opportunities for us in country? What would be the opportunities by which we leverage these countries? But I thought this was fascinating because what Dr. Griffin presented was that, and then I'll read a part of it. Specifically, over the past dozen years, China has made a number of investments in the Bahamas, including a $30 million grant to build a national stadium, preferential loans to build a $3 billion megaport at Freeport, and $40 million to build a port off the Bahamian island of Abaco. Further, the China Exim Bank provided with $54 million in preferential loans to build a 4-lane highway and loaned nearly $3 billion to build the Bahama Resort. The China State Engineering Corporation purchased the British Hilton Colonial as part of the $250 million construction project. Well, the minister said yesterday there are some inaccuracies with that statement, and that technically, okay, and I see Professor there. Let's hope we get the audio back on. And I see you guys. Let's see. Say hi for me. How you doing? No, can't hear the audio. So let's see what we can get done on that side there. And we'll take a quick break soon so that hopefully we can get back on and get it sorted. But there were some of the issues there, some of the intricacies of the statement. And even today, I don't know if you guys noticed, but in the news today, Ambassador Dai of China kind of wanted to say that, hey, the minister was accurate in that we haven't really, China no longer owns, the Chinese government doesn't own Bahama, right? But for me, none of that matters, What matters now to me is that the United States and China aren't cool. They're not tight, right? They're not tight. They're not close. And so we'll see. Dr. Griffin, so close. Don't worry. I have a solution for us. You don't mind, mine. I'm going to get your number and we're going to fix this. And we're going to take a quick break. I'm going to let my producer take me on a quick break. And you don't worry. We'll get your audio. You just keep the video. 1 second. Let me get my producer sorted out on this. And like I'm saying, guys, for me, that pays me no mind. Whatever we say, all that matters to me is, are we able to take advantage of what is China and America? The minister saying yesterday that it's overblown. It isn't overblown. I mean, we do have some challenges, and that's what Dr. Patrick Griffin is going to share with us on this. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to The Hit Back with Nahaja Black. Arlie, let's go to a quick break. We'll be back.
Affected by a hurricane, the damage is far greater than the eye can see. It's the pain of experiencing damage to your home. But there are people right here that can help. We're CG Atlantic General. We're your neighbors. We live here and work here too. We're always ready to answer calls and to process your claims as quickly as possible. So when a storm turns your life upside down, we're here to turn it around. CG Atlantic General. Good like that. Security and General Insurance Company Limited, trading as CG Atlantic General. Contact a CG Atlantic General broker today.
We are working to protect our country, our people, and our livelihoods so that we can move forward. The vaccine is safe. The vaccine is easy. The vaccine is essential for our recovery. If we want to rebuild our economy, if we want to get back to our jobs, if we want to get back to our lives, our families, we must do this together.
When I got prostate cancer, my family didn't know if I was going to live. At Cancer Treatment Centers of America, within days, I got an appointment. They presented me with treatment options, and we set up a robotic prostatectomy. When my scans came back, there are no signs of cancer. They don't see you as a number, they see you as a part of the family. I'm going on with my life. That's a real gift.
Call us at Cancer Treatment Centers of America.
Rev customers already get more channels, more sports, and more speed. Now, we're giving more Christmas with up to $250,000 in cash and prizes. Sign up or upgrade to Rev Trio to win prizes like rent and mortgage payments, trips to see your favorite sports teams, plus up to $20,000 in our Rev Cash Vault. Want to win more Christmas? Call 601-8992 today and ask for Rev Trio. Rev, you and us together.
Do you worry that you or your loved ones may get COVID-19 and possibly die from it? Getting a COVID-19 vaccine can lower your risk of severe illness or death from COVID-19. The Johnson & Johnson vaccine is available, and you only need one shot. One and done and fully vaccinated for now. Talk to a healthcare professional about your concerns and about getting vaccinated. To be safe, continue to wash your hands, wear your face mask, practice physical distancing, and get vaccinated.
This message has been brought to you by the Ministry of Health and this radio station.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
It's the Hit Back with Nahaja Black. It's the Hit Back with Nahaja
listening to the Hit Back with Nahaja, Black Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Hopefully, we've gotten some of our technical challenges sorted out. I'm looking forward to having as my guest the one and only Dr. Patrick Griffin. Dr. Griffin, are you there? Are you with us? Still 11. So we got to do the phone thing. We'll do the phone thing and get you sorted out. And my producer, Arlie, go ahead, take the phone number out of the private chat and give our Mr. Griffin a call so we'll get this sorted out for you, right? And, these things happen with the technical issues. And so my producer will be giving you a call right now, Dr. Griffin, as we get set to have this discussion. All right. So if you're just tuning in, you're listening to the Hit Back with Nahaja, Black Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Dr. Patrick Griffin joining us on the show. We were talking a bit about his article that he wrote on thehill.com, talking about, some of the challenges that we are facing in country. And I think that that's very important for us to have this discussion here on the show. As a side note, and as we wait for that to get sorted out, something that is a side note, but before we get even further into that and waiting for I think my producer's dialing in now. Why these things are important to us, or why they should be important to us, is because I want to know more about the policy decisions we make. Like when we decide that we're going to do more investing or trade, is that intentional or just hopeful, right? Is that intentional or hopeful? And we want to be more intentional with how we do business, foreign and domestic, local and abroad, right? So we want these things to work. And Arlie, just let me know when we have everything solid. Okay, it'd be great. We have him on the phone line. So let's see if we have him. Okay. And Dr. Griffin, you got to mute your computer for me.
Okay.
So mute the volume on your computer so that we make sure that everything is good there. Right, turn down the speakers on your end, and then we'll be good. Because you're using the phone as your audio.
Right, we're doing it right now.
All right, perfect. All right, I think there you go. We got it. We finally got it.
Nothing to it. Thank you. Sorry, and you appreciate your persistence and technical capabilities.
Yeah, no, hey, this happens all the time. You just got to know how to go with it. And, luckily for me, I can wing it until the real expert gets on board. Dr. Patrick Griffin joining us, Washington, D.C. University, America University, joining us on the show today. Dr. Griffin, I'm thankful that you said yes to joining me. And thank you again for your time. I know that we had to work with your schedule, so thank you for that. I want to ask you, just a bit about your background so that folks can get a sense of who you are. Something that you shared with me was that you've had a home in the Bahamas for over 30 years.
That's correct. Over in Hopetown. And as you know, you may know, we got pretty clobbered in Dorian, and every time that happens, it's amazing how it brings the community together, and folks who are just kind of interlopers like myself for 30 years, or folks that have been there. It really builds a wonderful bond among us all. And I think we're coming through the other side, but there are a lot of folks still suffering and behind the curve on that. But my kids kind of grew up there. We have they've had buddies since they were in preteen, and it's a nice. And now we have grandchildren that are making connections. So it's a real part of our life.
Yeah. And, I wanted to ask, what led you to, you and along with your colleague, to write this article, The Strategic Challenge for the U.S., China, and the Bahamas? What led you to write that article?
Well, we had written, that was the fourth piece we wrote.
Mm-hmm.
One, I think another one was printed in The Guardian, the Miami Herald, and two others in The Hill. Our concern was, at least instigated by my fear that the U.S. wasn't making this enough of a priority. It really wasn't about the Bahamas as it was as much instigated. It is about the Bahamas, but the instigation was, my concern is that the United States had, they're doing what they can do there. But the fact that there's been no ambassador for 11 years, things are taking place in all different venues and sectors, whether it's about the environment and about China involvement, gave us cause to write and try to bring this to the attention of this administration, who we both support very much, but sometimes you have to break through to make a point.
Yeah, and I think
your Prime Minister, your minister's latest comments on tourism. We thought we were done writing these articles, and then when we saw his comments, it inspired us to write another one.
Yeah, what was it about the comments of because it was something you noted in the article that you guys wrote on thehill.com. And if you're just tuning in, Dr. Patrick Griffin, professor at American University, he also worked as an assistant to President Clinton and was secretary to the Democratic Conference in the United States Senate. What was it that was said in particular that made you guys step up and say, hey, America, take notice, you need to be more attentive to the Bahamas? What was it in particular that made you write that? Can you hear me? All right, let's see what happened here. Okay. Am I the only one who can't hear anything? Arlie? Okay, try it again. Say something, Doc. Okay.
I hear you.
Okay. All right, good.
Well, it wasn't remarkable in that he was talking about inviting the Chinese to do business in Bahamas. That makes sense to me. I think it's more complicated dynamic than it might appear to folks at times, and maybe the way he was suggesting it. But it really wasn't. Our statement really wasn't to the Bahamas. It really was to the United States. That the longer we that we need to put more attention to this relationship on a whole bunch of levels. I think Professor Nye said that this relationship has several levels of military, economic, and social. I wouldn't necessarily put military up there. I would say diplomatic, economic, and social, and the military is implied in some ways. But I think we have not done our job and building this relationship, deepening this relationship, and the Chinese are walking right in, and I think that works to the advantage of the Bahamians in some ways. But I think it would be better if the relationship was balanced with our investments, both economic, social, and diplomatic, and that's what we were really talking to our country, the U.S., more than the Bahamas. I think there is an economic, a military implication. You're just a few miles off our coast. There's a lot of, the more investment, a major country that at times seems like a political and military challenge to us is sitting on our back door. It seems like it's in our interest to pay a little more attention than we have. And that was really our motivation.
When you look at it from that perspective and from, the geopolitics, I think for many of us here in the Bahamas, our curiosity is when you guys mention more, right? What should the more look like? What should this more from the United States' vantage point look like for Bahamian people?
Well, that's really a good question, and I think culturally and socially, I think there's a fundamentally positive relationship between the two countries. There's a natural flow that goes back and forth, so I'm not really speaking to that. I think there's more ways we can either directly invest or facilitate economic investment I think that would be helpful to everyone. I think there's investments that would benefit the United States. We wrote in previous articles about the environment. There was some concerns we highlighted about the Bahamian interest in doing offshore drilling with the British companies, exploration. So we have a self-interest in some ways, particularly on the environment. But we have an economic interest just to deepen the relationship. It's not enough just to have a handshake. And I think one of the ways of deepening it is through facilitating economic investments, both in international banking houses. I think there are some obstacles that I think need to be addressed that keep the Bahamas out of benefiting from some of the big bank investments. The fact that it's classified as a wealthy country, where obviously there's a lot of wealth in it, but that does not really reflect the day-to-day struggles of many people that could benefit by more concerted economic investment. So I think, again, these articles, they're not intended to go deep. They're intended to kind of like ring the bell, and that we're ringing the bell saying our country, the U.S., needs to pay more attention to the Bahamas. We need to have a strategic plan and investment. We need to get past not having an ambassador, which is just shameful. Just shameful that is the case. That's not the cause. It's not caused by this particular party. The opposition party, the Republican Party, has put a hold on the appointing an ambassador since President Obama put up a very qualified person, Cassandra Butts. She was on the calendar, 800 days. 800 days on our calendar, which means you're getting ready to move, and she died. And this was an old arcane rule that the Republicans are using to stop us to take that next step and get an ambassador and get the relationship more, alive and thriving, which is what we're really hoping for.
If you're just tuning in, Dr. Patrick Griffin, adjunct professor at American University in Washington, D.C., former assistant to President Clinton, and was the secretary to the Democratic Conference and the U.S. Senate, joining us here on the Hit Back with Nahaja Black. So then let's do this theoretically. From the professorial position, Professor Griffin, when you, from your strategic advantages and, geopolitics, all of that good stuff, if you were the Bahamas, if you were consulting, right? You were consulting, not to go that deep, but just say you were within ranks and could serve as giving advice, right? We sit in an interesting space where we have good relationships with China from investments, strategic investments. And of course, by far, our greatest ally is the United States, where we do our business. We've had history where Bahamians have helped to build parts of South Florida. Our history is long and extensive. And our friendship is integral to our success. How would you, if speaking to our leadership, how would you say to the Bahamas the best ways to leverage these relationships in order to gain the most return for itself, whilst remaining an ally to all? What would you suggest to the country?
Well, some might suggest that maybe you are trying to leverage that right now, and by showing some, offering this invitation to China. To me, I would totally appreciate wanting to have a constructive relationship with China, to the extent that you could. I would want the United States to know that was happening, and would want them to offer a responsible opportunity to balance that relationship. And that would, again, include social, diplomatic, and economic. I think when it's kind of
open-ended and not defined, I think, one, I don't think that's healthy. I don't think that works for the long run. It's not a sustainable play. Somebody can make a mistake and you can be caught in the middle in a way that would not be to your advantage. So I think the intentionality of a strategic relationship with the United States, acknowledging that you may have also a strategic relationship with China, one would be acceptable, I'm sure, to the United States, depending on what it is. But I also think it would give you a sense of how you want this to go. And I think when it's kind of open-ended and only half done, I think that the chances for mistakes to happen, I think, are greater. And I don't think it is that hard to build a contextual relationship that puts everybody in equal control over what is going on and what is not going on. Right now, people are led to speculate. What's China up to? What are they doing? Are people benefiting? Are the local Bahamians benefiting from all the economic investment of China? Are the benefits going somewhere else? What is the intent of these ports? What's going on, or highways? I think the speculation is not healthy or constructive. So I think you can address that. We could address that in the United States by having that a focal point.
If you're just joining us, Dr. Patrick Griffin joining us on the show. Interesting, when you talk about mistakes, what sort of mistakes would you think would happen in an open-ended sort of, undefined leveraging position from the Bahamas? What sort of mistakes?
Well, that would be dangerous to speculate on. I mean, people have, set up extreme kinds of hypotheticals. I just think that the economic investment could get so out of whack that the U.S. wonders what's going on, and it begins to make them think about what they want to do and not do. So I think that just a one-sided part of the equation where the economic investment is, say, with China, and very significant amounts, and that continues. And I think that leads folks to draw, conclusions and maybe makes people want to turn away rather than turn in and turn to the U.S. I think there are questions around fishing and what's going to happen. Is this a launching pad for other countries to, encroach on the fishing opportunities that, of course, the Bahamians benefit from, and as well as the United States. So I think you could speculate when it's kind of lopsided and there isn't a plan. And I think a plan helps. I heard your previous guest talk about how important a plan is if you're going to China. I think it's very important to have a plan when you're dealing with China anytime, and because they are a force, and it's not always a high force, but they are a force, and they are working in their self-interest as you would expect them to do. And I think being a small country in that relationship, I think it's important for the Bahamians to know what they want out of it, and I think it's also important for the United States to know how they want to play in that too. So you're dealing with, very, very powerful entities. One that happens to be more aggressive right now, and makes me wonder where it's going.
Yeah, Dr. Patrick Griffin. That's an interesting point because, of course, you brought up, and the article that you wrote on The Hill, you co-authored with thehill.com, and you said that was the fourth of a series, right? One of the things that's interesting, again, is that, hey, as you mentioned, it's about America paying attention. And now the Biden administration is here. Like you said, 11 years, there's been no ambassador in country. What would an ambassador do? Because an ambassador is a representative, but really, if there is no, do we rate? Right now, perhaps there will be more attention, but our relationship with China and country isn't new, right? This has been going on for well over a decade. even more. We have, even longer than that. But we're talking major investments, etc. And then you have the port that's in Grand Bahama, Hutchinson, Whampoa. We've had all kinds of other issues and with some other investments, but Bahama Point, etc. We've had some, we've been doing business. What would make this different? What has made this different that the United States needs to pay attention? What, apart from, and I gather it wasn't just the minister talking about Chinese investment. Was there something else that makes this time different?
Well, I think there are a couple things. One is the focus on China, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, and how that's being portrayed, whether it was by President Trump or how it's being portrayed by President Biden. They're saying it's a priority. We need to pay attention to it. And I think those who follow the issue closely, probably more closely than I, you don't have, it has many dimensions to it. And it's not just about trade and economic threat. Military threats and the Sea of Japan. It has many pieces to it, and we have to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. And one of the things we've not done is paid attention to our diplomatic relationship here. That's not to say that the folks that are working in the embassy here aren't trying to do their best. But the process, as you can imagine, is there's no one switch that turns it on and off. If there was a person placed here, that would be one switch that's in the right direction. Then the question is that person capable enough to understand what's happening, what's actually needed on the ground, which I would not presume to say at this moment. You got to be there kind of working this, and then be able to bring that back up the chain to Washington and make the case. So it requires, it's not a switch on and off. It's a process. And it's a process that's been rather dormant. And we believe sincerely it needs to be energized. And the ambassador, depending on what kind of person they pick, that could be a very serious step, and one that would have could have some influence in the State Department and with the president, or it could be, sometimes a throwaway, and it's just a political payoff. That's not to say political appointments would not be serious, but sometimes somehow some of these appointments get misunderstood, and the opportunities are not maximized. I think if they took a professional out of the State Department and gave them Bahamian status, I think that would be my ideal. That would be somebody who really knows the business of being an ambassador, knows the business of the Bahamas, and knows how to maneuver in Washington. So it's not a flashy plan. It's a plan about getting the word inside and as closest to the secretary and then ultimately the president.
And that would lead to, we would hope, better, not just better relationships, but better outcomes overall for the Bahamas. Because of course, as a Bahamian, Dr. Griffin, my interest is always in the Bahamas leveraging itself in the best position to maximize itself, its people, its position. And we, as the minister says, listen, we are allies to all, right? We have necessarily no military might. Our goal is to be successful in our space, help our people to maximize their potential. But we're not a military might, and we're not looking to be one. So this is it's a walk, a balancing act. But in the Caribbean, and not just the Bahamas, but the Caribbean regions, Caribbean countries have been challenged with being ignored. And then China shows up as a country saying, hey, but we won't ignore you. And then all of a sudden, we have a moment when President Barack Obama goes to CARICOM. And but that is just to say hi. We don't in the Caribbean feel that substantive, intentional move for support. But we have seen a few things in country. I think USAID recently assisted us with some COVID programs. COVID. I'm not certain, medicine, something. I'm not totally sure. Forgive me. But there has been some substantive actions. How do we then take these things seriously and that they're not just gestures because of?
Well, I think it's important that the economic flow works when there is need and necessary. I think there's probably opportunities to do more of that. That's what I was suggesting before. I think there are ways we can recast the status of the Bahamas so that they would be eligible for more different kinds of development assistance. I think what at least in this moment, we're looking for a public high profile of a relationship with the U.S. that begins to hammer away on all the key issues that are necessary. I think, frankly, that would help you in your relationship with China. If China knew that the United States has begun to pay some smart attention here, if I was advising the Chinese, I would remark that that's something we need to watch. Because when we are in same places with them, the dynamic is different. It doesn't radically change. Nothing's going to happen here radically, but the assessment begins to shift. So I think the profile of a relationship leads then to some intentionality on a plan that is multifaceted, and I think that helps the Bahamian government leverage whoever else might be interested in this. And again, I just think it's time we pay attention. You're 50 miles off our coast. If you want to ring the scary bell of Cuba and this old Soviet Union, I'm sure there's some folks doing that. But I think we can be smarter than that and be more forward thinking and work out a constructive, high profile relationship. That's what I'm looking for. I want it to be visible.
Yeah. And I appreciate your time, Dr. Griffin. And I'm very happy that we had this chance to talk. I know minus the technical glitches and issues, I thank you so much for it. And you're in DC now, yes?
Yeah, I'm here full time. By the way, I really did appreciate your previous guest. That was a fun and informative interaction. I appreciate stumbling in on that. Thank you.
No, I was happy that you were able to see this one.
For what it's worth, we're going to keep banging at it here. Again, our message really is to Washington, and we thought, and the Guardian every once in a while picks up what we're saying, but we're really talking to our colleagues in the State Department, and Bill Dammers and I, my colleague who co-authored this with me. I mean, we know those folks very well, and we know President Biden from the years that we worked with him. But penetrating, into it's tough. It's tough. So.
Before I let you go, something that was interesting too. Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, maybe 2-3 years ago, was made note of the fact, and I think actually probably was around the time when we were just out, just going through Dorian, coming through this process in the end of 2019 or whatnot. And there were concerns, of Chinese, I think the Chinese government at the time gave us some gifts to help with recovery and restoration. We had a former, Consul General misspeak totally misspoke and sent us into I would say a diplomat tailspin for the things that she said when she misspoke. But it led to later down an article or some statements by Ron DeSantis and his concern of China being within the country and sounding some form of alarm that there is a foreign power right at the doorstep of the United States. Is that overblown? Is that code red too much? Is that a too loud of a symbol there? Was that politicking? What do you think that is?
Well, I don't think it helps. I don't think it helps the Bahamas for us to say the sky has fallen. I think it helps to say, let's be realistic about what's going on here and what's an appropriate counter to what's going on. I think there are folks, particularly on the other side of the aisle, from a Democrat to a Republican, that DeSantis has no responsibility for any foreign policy. He's not in Washington, so he can go around bang pots and ring bells all the time. And I think if you're trying to embarrass the opposition or the people in office, you can hit that bell. But I don't think it's constructive. I think smart people are aware of that. Smart people, like I said, 25 or 50 miles off our coast. What is all of this infrastructure investment for? I think you need to be mindful of it. But I think leading with that kind of hysteria type thing is not really what we're suggesting. You be mindful of it, but you take steps to build a constructive dynamic. So, yeah, I think there are folks that are worried about, and I think, yes, but I think there are better ways to approach it than, unfortunately, this does get caught up in partisan politics in Washington, and it's always one party, and I'm not saying one party is more guilty than the other, but the one party is always trying to either one-up the other or embarrass them for not doing enough. And as a result, I think we turn out lousy policy and programs. And I think that's where we are now. The fact that they've, that we couldn't have an ambassador, there's no big partisan implication of that. It was only because they could do that to President Obama, and they didn't care enough to do anything when President Trump was in office. So, and they're doing the same thing again on, other. I think President Biden's gotten 4 or 5 major appointments in the foreign relations field. So, it's unfortunate. And and that's our problem. We are really in a pickle on that hyper-partisanship and being able to do our job as a country.
Justin asks, someone online asks, if the U.S. wants to do more, that's excellent, but why make China the excuse? Is the Bahamas not important in its own right? What do you think to that?
He is absolutely right. But what happens in politics, you use whatever leverage you can to make a point. And sometimes you overstate the thing, like there's going to be this foreign power that's going to, maybe we're dealing with that 10 years down the road. But I think the listener is absolutely right. There's a lot that would benefit the United States by a healthy, robust relationship. And on top of that, it's smart to be mindful of what's going on with China. That's the priority I would put it in. You got to do both. You got to be thinking about all of that. There's no one simple approach to this.
Someone asked, what are some of the good tidings, in your opinion, that the U.S. government can do? I know in the article you guys talk about, helping to restore Abaco. That was one of the things that you mentioned in the article. You mentioned for sure the need for an ambassador here as well. Environmental or ecotourism, I think, was something that may have been mentioned in the article. But what would you say if you had the ear of President Biden and someone who has, lived here, has a home here for 30 years in Hopetown, what would you say to him as, someone who advised President Clinton? What would you say to President Biden on what the Bahamas could accept or need right now that may help bolster the relationship and secure it?
Well, it's a tough question to answer because, again, all of these things, not all of them, but a lot of things interact. But one of the things that we allude to in the article and other articles is this status which precludes you from getting access to resources at these international banks because of being classified as a wealthy country. And that seems that could open up a door for opportunity and investment beyond what we're doing right now. I think the environmental, encouraging environmental research and investment would be something else that I think we could do, and particularly with this new piece of legislation that we have that hopefully will become law pretty soon. There's opportunity to encourage companies in the United States to drill down further in I don't want to use the word drill, but to invest further in environmental research and development. And I think the Bahamas is a great place to explore many aspects of that, in particular wind and solar. So, I mean, I would really just focus. I would really want to focus on the economic pieces as much as I can, and I would want to build a profile of a relationship. I think that's important. That we care, we're buddies, we have a long history, and we have a future together. And sometimes you have to say that out loud. In as far as diplomacy goes, it triggers other reactions that I think would be constructive.
Yeah. Dr. Patrick Griffin, professor at American University in Washington, D.C., was an advisor to former President Clinton and secretary to the Democratic Conference in the U.S. Senate. Dr. Griffin, I hope this isn't the last time because you were a great guest. And, hopefully whenever you do come back to the Bahamas, you can be live with us in studio. But I appreciate your contribution today on the show. And, it's good insight when we get a sense of, inside those halls as well and what tends to be the necessary discussion. And very interesting, your take on the importance of a particular type of ambassador to maybe pull those levers, flip that switch in order to get us that level of, relationship building, with the United States as well. Thank you so much, Professor Professor Griffin.
Well, I hope to see you in person one day.
Indeed. Thank you so much. You're listening to the Hit Back with Nahaja, Black Guardian Radio 96.9 FM.
If you'd like to make a...
Well, guys, I hope you learned as much as I did, because I tend to like this sort of conversations. I think it takes us out of our space, too, that we just don't see it where we are, but get a sense of the bigger picture and how we are run in the world. And I think that's one conversation we don't tend to have. How do we move in the world? How does the world view us? How do we play the game? And even having the Minister of Foreign Affairs on yesterday, wanting to know how do we, I see things. How is this working? Obviously, they can't say all. There was I spoke with someone yesterday, and they said, Nahaja, Minister Mitchell didn't say anything. So, well, there's some things he just can't say, though. Like, if you understand how this thing goes, there's some things he can't say, right? There's some line you have to walk in the middle, and it's a fine line. So that's interesting there. Before we go, I'm going to wrap up the show. But before we go, just as a note, of course, Baby Bella was laid to rest this week. And that was something that is saddening in and of itself. We've been continuing these conversations on domestic violence. But recently, I saw a video. Of a woman stabbing a man. Y'all, I am unable to can, in the words of the great Chrissy Love, I am unable to can what is going on here. What? I just can't. It's just like, I can't. It's like, this next level circus ring. And it's I don't know what we need. But she needs jail. That's one thing for sure. And I mean, the audacity. We trying to kill people in broad daylight? I don't know what to say. I really don't know what to say. I just don't know what to say. Other than y'all better pray, wear Kevlar. Why are we going out? Why do you go out? Why are you going out? Don't even go out. Why are you in a relationship? Be single. Swear. This is like nothing makes sense anymore. Everyone have a good one. Be safe. Take care of yourself. You're listening to the Hit Back with Nahaja, Black Guardian Radio. Special thanks to my producer, Arlie, who was nothing but fantastic. On the ball today, Arlie. Everyone, we'll see you tomorrow. We're out.